All right, let's dive in. This time, we're taking a look at Cassandra Clare's Clockwork Angel, the first book in the Infernal Devices, right?
Yes, the first one.
Okay, cool. And, Shadowhunters, Downworlders, all that fun stuff. Our listener sent in some excerpts and seems particularly fascinated by Tessa Gray. And, well, her whole journey into the shadow world.
Yeah, she's pretty much thrown into this reality that, well, she never even knew existed.
Right, totally. And on top of that, she's dealing with, like, the shock of discovering it all.
And trying to find her brother.
And she's an orphan. Oh man, that's a lot to handle. It's not exactly a gentle introduction to the shadow world either. I mean, she runs into a Shax demon even before meeting any shadow hunters.
Yeah, hunting demon, not exactly a warm welcome. It really sets the stage for what she's up against.
Definitely. Talk about starting things off with a bang.
And it makes you really feel how vulnerable she is.
Yeah.
Surrounded by creatures she thought were just stories.
Absolutely. So thank goodness she finds the London Institute, right? That's the shadow hunter's base. It sounds like a serious fortress from what you said. Mortar mixed with Shadowhunter blood, Rowan beams, iron, and silver nails.
It's not your average building.
No kidding.
It's more than just a building, though. It's a symbol of what they stand for, how dedicated they are to protecting everyone, humanity, their whole mission.
Makes sense. Like every little detail is meant to keep those demonic influences out.
Right? Like a safe haven in this world that just got a whole lot scarier for her.
I can see why she'd be drawn to that, that sense of safety, of purpose, especially since she's got her own mysterious powers to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
Shape-shifting into other people. Wow. Fascinating.
It is, isn't it?
But also a bit freaky, I imagine.
Definitely raises some big questions, like where does it come from? Is she a warlock or something else entirely? That's one of the big mysteries that keeps you hooked.
For sure, for sure. And it's not the only one either. There's that whole thing with the Pandemonium Club attracting all sorts of downworlders, stirring up trouble.
Yeah, and they're totally breaking the accords, too.
The laws that keep things relatively peaceful between Shadowhunters and downworlders.
Exactly. So there's clearly some deeper tension going on.
You mentioned a powerful vampire, De Quincey, being involved, and even, well, a brothel with some rather unusual tastes, if you know what I mean.
De Quincey being involved is definitely a bad sign. He's a big deal in the downworld, and him ignoring the accords like that, well, it means that balance of power is shifting. Makes you wonder what he's really after.
Yeah, why rock the boat like that? And then there's the whole thing with the murders at his parties.
It's more than just having fun. It's a way of showing off his power, challenging the shadow hunters. Dangerous game he's playing.
Seriously. It sounds like things are about to get messy, especially with Tessa having to pretend to be a vampire, Camille, to sneak into one of those parties. She's looking for her brother, right?
Yeah. Her shape-shifting makes her the perfect spy, but if they find out who she really is...
She's in deep trouble.
Big time. Makes you wonder what she'll find there, what she's willing to risk to find her brother.
Well, from the excerpts, it sounds like she finds something pretty disturbing. De Quincey's building an army of clockwork creatures.
Automatons. And they're pretty much indestructible.
Yeah.
Powered by magic.
And if he figures out how to, bind them to demonic energy...
The shadow hunters are in big trouble.
There's even that scene where he uses Nate, Tessa's brother, to show off just how powerful these things are.
Yeah, it's a chilling scene. It shows you just how far De Quincey will go. And it raises the stakes for Tessa, makes her search even more urgent.
Oh, absolutely. You're left wondering what's going to happen to Nate. But then, the twist. De Quincey isn't actually the big bad.
Nope. He's been set up.
By Axel Mortmain. This wealthy industrialist guy.
Who's really the Magister.
Yeah.
The one behind the Clockwork Army all along.
How about a plot twist? Makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about the characters.
Classic villain move. He was using everyone's prejudices, their assumptions, to keep the suspicion off himself.
He's playing the long game. And it makes him even scarier. And then, well, the attack on the Institute, it's just terrifying. Those clockwork creatures, they're relentless.
It's not just an attack on their home. It's an attack on everything they stand for, their sense of safety. Everything.
It really changes things, raises the stakes.
For sure.
And even Agatha, the cook, and Thomas, who's practically family to them, they're both killed.
It shows you the real cost of this war, the personal impact.
It's not just about good versus evil in some abstract way. Real people are getting hurt.
Exactly. And then, on top of everything else, there's the revelation about Nate. He betrayed his sister, sided with Mortmain.
Brutal. And in the excerpts, he even admits to poisoning their aunt to gain Mortmain's favor.
It's a chilling confession. It shows you how deeply Mortmain has gotten to him, twisted his desires for power and acceptance.
Yeah, it's a lot to process. We're left wondering about Tessa, about Mortmain's plan, and about what's going to happen to everyone caught in the middle. But before we get into those big questions, maybe we should take a closer look at some of the relationships at the heart of this story. Because let's face it, Clockwork Angel isn't just about fighting demons, it's about people and how they connect, how they're tested and changed by these crazy circumstances.
You're absolutely right. It's about those human connections amidst all the extraordinary stuff happening around them. And I think one of the most interesting relationships is the one between Tessa and Will. There's definitely an attraction there, but he keeps pushing her away.
It's frustrating. You can tell there's something more there, but he just keeps putting up these walls. Why do you think he does that?
Well, we get these glimpses into his past, right? His childhood, losing his family, the things that led him to the Institute. It's clear he's carrying a lot of pain, a lot of guilt, and he's built up these defenses to protect himself from getting hurt again.
So he pushes Tessa away because he's afraid of hurting her too.
Exactly. Classic self-sabotage. He thinks he's cursed, that anyone who gets close to him will suffer. It's tragic, but it's what drives him, and it creates all this tension between them, especially with Jem also in the picture.
Oh, yeah, Jem. He's so different from Will. Will's all brooding and unpredictable, but Jem is gentle, steady.
And yet they have this incredible bond. They're parabanta.
Right, parabante. I'm a little fuzzy on what that actually means, though. It comes up in the excerpts, but it's not really explained. Can you give us a quick rundown?
Sure. In the Shadowhunter world, parabatai are more than just best friends. They're warrior partners, bound by a sacred oath. They fight together, protect each other. They're there for each other through everything.
Oh, okay.
And their bond is so strong, they can even sense each other's emotions, thoughts.
Yeah.
They fight in sync like they're one being. It makes them almost unstoppable.
So like soulmates, but with a warrior twist.
Exactly. And with Will and Jem, it's even more poignant because of Jem's illness. He needs that demon powder to survive, which makes everything feel very fragile.
Right. But even with that hanging over him, he's still this source of strength. For Will, for Tessa. Well, that brings us back to the love triangle, I guess. Jem confesses his feelings for Tessa, but it almost feels bittersweet, you know?
Yeah. Because he knows his illness limits him. He can't offer her the same kind of future that Will potentially could. But his love for her, it's so pure, so selfless.
It adds another layer to this whole tangled web of relationships. And then you have Charlotte and Henry trying to run the Institute, hold everything together amidst all this chaos. Their relationship seems so different.
It is. They're a more mature couple. It's about mutual respect, shared responsibilities. Charlotte's a strong leader, but she depends on Henry's intelligence, his strategic thinking.
Right.
And Henry, even though he gets lost in his inventions and theories sometimes, he clearly loves Charlotte. He values her strength.
They make a good team. It's nice to see that kind of stability in this world that's gone haywire.
But they're not immune to the dangers either, especially with Mortmain lurking around.
Speaking of Mortmain, him being the Magister is a real shocker. What are your thoughts on him?
He's a master manipulator. He pretends to be this kind, generous industrialist, but underneath it all, he's cunning and ruthless.
Yeah, playing everyone, using them for his own plans.
And the scariest part is we still don't know what he really wants, what his end goal is.
He's like a puppet master, pulling everyone's strings. It's unsettling, especially knowing he's targeting Tessa for her powers.
He sees Tessa as the key to something bigger, something more powerful, a way to make his Clockwork army even more dangerous, infused with demonic energy.
Right. He wants to change the world, and he thinks she's the way to do it. That's, terrifying.
It is, and it raises all sorts of questions about, well, the nature of power, the dangers of unchecked ambition.
Yeah, it puts Tessa in a tough spot, this role she never asked for that could potentially destroy her.
And yet there's also something empowering about it, isn't there? Her powers make her a target, sure, but they also give her a way to fight back.
She's not just a pawn. She can make choices that could change everything.
Absolutely. And that's what makes her journey so compelling. It's not just about surviving. It's about figuring out who she is, making her own path in this world that's trying to control her.
And speaking of control, what about Jessamine? She starts off as this spoiled, superficial character, but there seems to be more to her.
Oh, for sure. Jessamine's fascinating. She's like this perfect example of how complicated the Shadowhunter world is. On the surface, she's everything they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Beautiful, rich, skilled in combat. But underneath, she's trapped. She wants a different life, a life outside all the expectations and rules.
That scene with the goblin in the park, that's a big moment for her. Like something cracks open and you see the anger, the resentment she's been hiding.
It's a reminder that even the people who seem to have it all are often carrying these hidden burdens. Makes you wonder what will happen to her. You know, will she keep rebelling or find a way to make peace with her world?
It's a question that hangs over the whole book, and then there's the mystery of the clockwork angel she carries around. It's more than just a family heirloom, right?
It's definitely connected to her powers, maybe even to her past. It's a symbol of all the secrets she's carrying.
Like a key to unlocking who she really is. And that potential, it's both scary and exciting for her.
As it should be. Her powers are both a strength and a weakness. They make her a target, but they also give her a way to protect herself, to protect the people she cares about.
And that struggle between fear and power, that's really at the heart of her story.
You see her wrestling with her identity, questioning what she's capable of. And as she learns to control her powers, she starts to embrace who she really is, even the parts that might seem scary or different.
And then everything changes when the Institute is attacked. That scene in the excerpts, it's chaotic, heartbreaking. It's more than just a battle, it's like a violation.
It is, it's a turning point. It shows that even the shadow hunters, with all their strength, are vulnerable. And it really brings home the consequences of Mortmain's actions.
The deaths of Thomas and Agatha, they're especially hard-hitting. They weren't shadow hunters, but they get caught in the crossfire. Innocent victims.
It's a reminder that this isn't just a fantasy battle, you know. Real people get hurt.
And the way Will reacts to Thomas's death, it's like he finally lets his guard down, shows how much pain he's carrying.
It's a glimmer of hope, maybe. Like he might actually be starting to confront his past.
It's a question that hangs over the rest of the story. And as we head into the final part of this deep dive, there's a sense of both, like excitement and dread. Mortmain's still out there. Tessa's still trying to control her powers, and Will's caught in this web of his own making.
So many unanswered questions.
What's Mortmain's endgame? Will Tessa embrace who she really is? Will Will and Jem find some kind of peace?
And who will Tessa choose?
Those are the questions that keep you hooked. And we'll explore them further when we dive into the final act of Clockwork Angel in part 3 of this deep dive.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? All this stuff about destiny and free will.
Definitely. And while we're pondering all that, let's not forget about the final battle. That scene at the Institute with the clockwork creatures running wild, the shadow hunters fighting back. It sounds insane.
Oh, it is. The Institute, which is supposed to be their safe haven, is under attack. Their whole world is falling apart around them.
Intense. But amidst all that chaos, there are these moments of incredible courage. Like, you mentioned Jessamine helping to protect the injured. That surprised me, considering how she acted earlier in the book.
Right. It's a real turning point for her. Maybe she finally realizes that the world she wants to escape is actually worth fighting for. Or maybe it's just basic human compassion, you know, seeing that everyone deserves protection, even though she's judged before.
It's a good reminder that even characters who seem shallow can surprise you. And what about Will? How does he handle all this with everything going on between him and Tessa?
Will, well, he's a mess of contradictions in this last part. He's fiercely protective of Tessa, but his fear of hurting her because of that secret he's keeping
Right.
just makes him push her away even more.
So the love triangle heats up.
Oh, yeah. In the middle of this life or death fight, you have this whole emotional drama unfolding, and it all comes to a head when Jem confesses his love for Tessa, knowing he might not have a future with her because of his illness.
That must have been so hard for both of them. And for Will, how does he react to that?
He tries to hide his feelings, of course. He loved Tessa too, but he's convinced he'll only hurt her. So he steps aside, lets Tessa and Jem find happiness together, even though it breaks his own heart.
That's both selfless and incredibly sad. He's putting their happiness before his own.
It shows how much he loves them both, Jem and Tessa. And it reflects the whole parabatai thing, that idea of putting your partner first. Always.
It's a powerful scene. And it sets up this bittersweet resolution to the love triangle. Tessa chooses Jem, seeing how much he loves her. And Will, even though he's heartbroken, respects her choice.
It's a choice that changes everything for them. Tessa and Jem start this journey of love and healing, knowing their time might be limited. Will keeps battling his own demons, haunted by his past, and their parabatai bond, well, it survives, even though it's been through a lot.
It reminds you that even when you win, there can be loss, sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly. And that love isn't always simple. Sometimes letting go is the most loving thing you can do. But let's not forget about the big bad Mortmain. He's still out there, plotting and scheming. What happens when they finally confront him?
Well, that final showdown, from what I read, it's epic. It's more than just a physical fight. It's about willpower, about beliefs.
Mortmain represents this cold, ruthless ambition. He wants power no matter the cost. Tessa, she's the opposite. She represents compassion, empathy, doing what's right even when it's hard.
And she even faces her demon father during the battle, right?
Yeah, that's a huge moment, symbolically and emotionally. She's confronting the source of her powers, her deep fear. And she realizes that she's not defined by where she comes from. She can choose good, reject the darkness that her father represents.
It's like she's finally free from her past.
Exactly. And that's how she finds the strength to beat Mortmain. She uses her powers not to destroy, but to create. She uses her cleverness, her understanding of him, to bring him down.
So it's a victory for her, but also for everyone who believes in love, compassion, in the idea that we can overcome anything, even the darkest forces, if we work together.
Absolutely. But even though Clockwork Angel ends with a sense of closure, there's also this feeling of anticipation, like what's next? Tessa's journey is just beginning.
Right. She's found her place in the shadow world, but there are still so many challenges ahead.
More battles to fight, more secrets to uncover.
It's the perfect setup for the next book. But before we get too excited about that, let's take a moment to think about what we've learned from this deep dive into Clockwork Angel.
We've seen this world where magic and technology come together, where old traditions clash with modern ideas, and where love and loss are all tangled up in these complicated relationships.
We've met characters who make mistakes, who get hurt, but who are ultimately trying to do the right thing.
And even in a world full of demons and darkness, there's always hope, always a chance for redemption. And love, well, love can conquer anything.
Well said. Now, what about you? What stood out to you the most about Tessa's world? Anything that really resonated with you?
It's a story that stays with you. It reminds you that even when things are tough, you can find strength in yourself, in the people around you, and in the belief that good will always win in the end.
I love that, and I think that's a perfect place to wrap up this part of our deep dive. We'll be back soon with part 3, where we'll explore the final act of Clockwork Angel and all its twists and turns. All right, so we left off with a lot hanging in the balance. Tessa, Will, Jem, and of course Mortmain still out there causing trouble. The final part of Clockwork Angel, from the excerpts you sent, it looks like it's a wild ride.
It is. We see Tessa dealing with so much, both the threat of Mortmain and his Clockwork army, but also her own internal struggles, figuring out who she is, what she wants.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, she's still trying to wrap her head around having a demon father and understanding her powers. And then there's this love triangle. Two guys who really care about her, each offering a different kind of future.
Exactly. And it's all happening while they're trying to stop Mortmain. It's like Tessa's journey becomes this metaphor for the choices we all make when we face something dark and scary. Do we give in? Or do we rise above it and fight?
Well, it seems like she makes a pretty brave choice. She decides she's not going to be Mortmain's puppet. She's going to fight back.
It's a big turning point for her. She's not just reacting anymore, she's taking charge. It's not just about beating Mortmain, it's about proving she's not defined by her demon side.
Right.
That she can use her powers for good, to protect people, to choose her own path.
It's inspiring, honestly. She's been through so much abandonment, loss, betrayal, and she still finds the strength to fight for what's right.
And she's not alone. She has Will, Jem, Charlotte, Henry, even Jessamine in her own way. They all come together to face this common enemy. It's like a reminder that even when things are bad, we can find strength in each other.
Yeah, that's true. Now, tell me more about the final battle at the Institute. The excerpts make it sound epic and kind of terrifying. Clockwork creatures everywhere, shadow hunters fighting for their lives.
It's a big moment in the book. The Institute, their safe place, is under attack. Everything's falling apart. But you still see these incredible acts of bravery, selflessness, love.
You said Jessamine helps protect the wounded. That's surprising after how she was acting before. What do you think made her change?
It's a turning point for her, for sure. Maybe she realizes that the world she's been trying to escape is worth saving. Or maybe she just sees that everyone deserves to be protected, even the people she looked down on before.
It's interesting how even characters you think you know can surprise you. And what about Will? How does he deal with all this, with his feelings for Tessa being so strong?
Will is all over the place in this last part. He's so protective of Tessa, but he's terrified of hurting her because of that secret he's keeping.
Right.
It just pushes him further away.
So the love triangle gets even more intense.
Totally. And then there's this heartbreaking scene where Jem confesses his love for Tessa. He knows his illness might mean they don't have a future together.
Wow. And what about Will? How does he handle that?
He hides his pain, like he always does. He loves her too, but he thinks he's cursed, that he'll only bring her suffering. So he lets her go, lets Tessa and Jem be happy, even though it kills him inside.
Oh, man, that's rough. He's putting their happiness before his own. Again.
It shows the depth of his love for
Yeah.
both of them and how strong the parabatai bond is. That idea of always putting your partner first.
Yeah. It's a powerful moment. And it leads to this bittersweet ending for the love triangle. Tessa chooses Jem, and Will, heartbroken but honorable, steps back.
And that choice changes everything. Tessa and Jem start this new chapter, full of love, but also uncertainty because of his illness. Will keeps struggling with his past, his feelings, and their parabatai bond, it survives, somehow.
It shows you that even when things work out, there's still loss, sacrifice.
Love isn't always a fairy tale. Sometimes letting go is the most loving thing you can do.
But we can't forget about Mortmain. He's still the big bad guy here. What happens when they finally face off?
That last battle with Mortmain, it brings everything together. It's not just about strength, it's about what they believe in. Mortmain, he's all about cold ambition and getting power no matter what. Tessa, she's about compassion, fighting for what's right.
And she even confronts her demon father in this battle, right?
It's a huge moment.
Yeah.
She's literally facing the thing that scares her most. And she realizes she doesn't have to be like him. She can choose good.
It's like she finally breaks free from her past.
Exactly. And that's how she beats Mortmain. She uses her powers, but not to destroy. She uses her smarts, her understanding of him to bring him down.
So she wins. But it's a victory for everyone who believes in good, in love, and the idea that we can overcome anything if we work together.
Absolutely. And even though the book ends, things aren't really over. Tessa's journey has just begun.
Yeah, she's found her place, but there's still so much out there for her.
More to learn, more to face.
It makes you want to dive right into the next book. But for now, let's think about what we've learned from Clockwork Angel.
We've seen this incredible world where magic and technology mix, where love and loss are all tangled up.
We've met these characters who make mistakes, who get hurt, but who keep trying to do the right thing.
And in a world full of darkness, there's still hope, redemption, and love. Well, love can conquer anything.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap things up. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Clockwork Angel. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into a different world, a different story. Until then, happy reading.